Couldn't leave well enough alone, huh? You just had to follow me all the way out here. How many times do I have to kill you?
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're getting scared but with better graphics. I'll never complain about a good video game remake. I know it has problematic effects for the industry, but I just can't get enough. And a horror game remake, take my goddamn money. These are the 20 most terrifying moments in horror game remakes. Let's go. Before we continue, we publish content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. Don't Look Back, Layers of Fear. Rebuilt using Unreal Engine 5, Layers of Fear looks seriously impressive. Every detail pops more now. From the warped hallways to rooms that seem to change when you're not looking, it's Fear but the way higher pixel count. One standout scare clearly takes inspiration from PT. In the original, after a quick fake out with a curtain blowing in your face, you'll notice a message on the door saying don't look back. Naturally, you either look back quickly and yep, the ghost is right behind you, screaming and grabbing you with her messed up face front and center, or you look back slowly, get a look and go, damn, she's spooky, and then she jumps at your face. Either way, there's some serious face jumping. In the remake, the jump scare preempts and gets you moving into the room. You can look away and back to the door for an added spook, but nothing compares to that first jump scare. Intersection creature alone in the dark. More of a reimagining than a remake, it might not have been exactly what fans were hoping for, but Alone in the Dark is still a big step up from the original in a lot of ways. The performances alone helped carry it, especially with David Harbour and Jodie Comer, who make the hunt for the mysterious Darkman feel way more engaging than expected. One moment that really sticks is the intersection creature, a shadowy, warped figure just standing there until you get close and it suddenly bolts straight at you like something out of your worst nightmare. Gross. Fighting David, The Last of Us Part 1.
You're easy to track.
I didn't feel like there was much room to improve on The Last of Us Remastered, but somehow Naughty Dog pulled it off with The Last of Us Part 1. The visual upgrade alone makes a huge difference, especially in 4K, and the added accessibility options open the door for more players to experience Joel and Ellie's story. But the real standout is the facial animation. Every emotion hits harder, and the quieter moments feel just as heavy as the action. Then there's David, easily one of the most disturbing characters in the game. With Joel out of action, Ellie is forced into a tense, drawn-out fight where stealth is everything, all while the building burns around her. Finding David and sneaking up on him is scary. Losing David and trying to find him when he might already have eyes on you, unmatched scary.
Man, don't say I didn't give you a chance.
Nemesis appears early, Resident Evil 3.
3 more days, then I can kiss this town goodbye.
Right at the start of Resident Evil 3, the game doesn't waste any time throwing you into chaos. Brad radios Jill with very helpful advice, saying, you gotta get out of there. Great tip, noted. But before you can even process that, the game hits you with a massive jump scare. Nemesis suddenly smashes through the wall out of nowhere, and it's completely unpredictable, especially if you're expecting it to play out like the original. It doesn't. That's what makes it so effective. It's new, it's loud, and it catches you off guard in the best or worst way. The Final Hours Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Capcom might call it a deluxe remaster, but let's be real, this version of Dead Rising feels way closer to a full remake, and it's technically listed as a remake, so I'm including it. Built from scratch using the RE engine, it keeps the core game intact while upgrading just about everything around it. Visually, it looks way better. The AI isn't as brain dead, and there are a bunch of small quality of life tweaks that make a big difference. But honestly, none of that is the real selling point. The actual game changer, you can skip time. No more standing around doing nothing, waiting for events to kick off. Once you use it, there's no going back. And weirdly, even with that control, those final in-game hours still feel tense as you scramble to wrap up everything before the clock runs out. Game over sequence, System Shock. Back in 1994, System Shock didn't just release, it exploded. Set aboard Citadel Station and ruled by the unhinged AI Showdown, the remake gives the whole experience a serious upgrade without losing what made it creepy in the first place. The visuals are now in HD, the gameplay feels modernized, but that same uneasy atmosphere is still hanging over everything. You'll deal with twisted cyborgs, mutated enemies, and a game over screen that is aggressively shocking. One, showing a character dragged into a massive machine and turned into something else entirely. It's disturbing in a way that stays with you long after you've stopped playing. The Hospital Siren Blood Curse. Siren Blood Curse marked the third entry in the series and basically reworked the original game, which made sense considering the earlier titles flew under the radar a bit. As the first one on the PS3, it blends classic survival horror with heavier stealth elements, and it really leans into making the player feel vulnerable and scared, and about 10 years old, and named Matthew. A lot of tension comes from how little control you actually have in certain situations. The most memorable section drops you into a creepy Silent Hill style hospital filled with unsettling nurses and patients wandering around. The twist is, you're not some hardened survivor, you're a young girl, which makes everything way more intense. Isaac becoming a necromorph, Dead Space. It had been a while since survival horror really hit hard, so EA decided to just jump back to 2008 and remake Dead Space in 2023. The remake doesn't just look better, it changes how you approach combat. The ship itself has been tweaked, opening up new paths and making exploration less predictable, especially with enemies showing up in different places after death. But the real horror comes from the Necromorphs, particularly the Divider. It falls apart into separate pieces, they crawl towards you, and if you mess up, its head can latch onto Isaac and kill him in a brutal animation where it rips his head off and takes its place. Don't lose your mind about it though. Arona Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was never the scariest, and the remake followed suit, with the terror being less about jump scares and more about particular enemies. Partway through Resident Evil 4, the game throws something new at you that instantly messes with your expectations, the Arona. These things are basically spider-like versions of the Las Plagas parasite, and unlike what you've dealt with before, they don't stay hidden inside a host. Instead, they jump between bodies, controlling them while using them as a shield. They move fast, skittering around in a way that's just plain uncomfortable to watch, and they'll even try to latch onto Leon if you're not careful. Prison of Hope, Demon's Souls. Before you can reach the highest parts of Latria or Latria in Demon's Souls, the game forces you to climb up from its darkest depths, an area known as the Prison of Hope. And yeah, if you thought Dark Souls 3 had some nightmare fuel with Irithel Dungeon, this place takes it further. It's a maze of cramped hallways, locked cells, and sudden drop-offs that keep you constantly on edge. But the real reason this area sticks with you isn't the prisoners, it's the mind flayers roaming around. The Basement, The Last of Us Part 1. The basement section in The Last of Us Part 1 is one of those moments where everything just goes wrong at once. You're already on edge because the place is pitch black, flooded, and full of infected, but the second you start that generator, the game flips the switch on you. Suddenly you're not exploring, you're running, and stalkers start creeping out from nowhere, forcing you to constantly check your surroundings, and just as you think it can't get worse, a bloater shows up. That's what really seals it. You're trapped in tight corridors with something that can kill you in a second, all while trying to figure out where to go and what to grab. It's a mix of panic, limited visibility, and pooping your pants. Music box, Layers of Fear. Right at the end of the child's room segment in Layers of Fear, things take a seriously disturbing turn once you step into the bedroom and interact with a glowing music box. At first it seems almost harmless, casting colourful shapes across the walls like something out of a kid's toy, but that doesn't last long. The longer it plays, the more your vision starts to warp and the whole room slowly shifts into something much darker. Toys begin moving on their own, the windows start opening and closing at a steady rhythm, and a baby doll repeatedly smashes its head against a crib in time with the music. It's less about a single scare and more about being trapped in a moment that keeps getting worse. The Falling Woman, Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake. The Falling Woman in the Fatal Frame 2 remake is one of those enemies that sticks with you for all the wrong reasons. Her story alone is rough. She ended her life by trying to jump from a high floor, and now her spirit is trapped, forcing to relive that moment over and over and over again. You first encounter her in a sudden, shocking way as she comes crashing down the stairs, screaming as she falls. It's not just a jump scare either, because what comes next is even harder to watch. The fall has clearly messed up her body, leaving her limbs twisted and useless. So instead of standing, she drags herself across the ground towards you. I've been drunk, but not that drunk. Crimson Head Resident Evil. Alongside Silent Hill, the original Resident Evil helped define survival horror. When Capcom brought it back in 2002 with a full remake, the upgraded visuals and sharper detail made everything feel way more intense. The famous dog window scares, still terrifying, but at least you expect it. What you don't expect are the Crimson Heads. These mutated zombies completely change the rules, moving just as fast as Chris and Jill, and swiping at you with brutal claw attacks. Suddenly, running isn't as safe as it used to be, and if you decide to stand your ground instead, you're in for a bad time. Opening elevator chase sequence, Dead Space.
Ventilation's up. Power to the elevator should be...
Hazardous anomaly detected.
The first real encounter with Necromorphs in Dead Space hits way harder than you'd expect, especially once Isaac and his team step onto the Ishimura. Things go south fast when one suddenly bursts out behind Chen, impaling him and smashing his body against the window right in front of you. It's brutal, and it's impossible to ignore. But somehow that's just a warm-up. What follows is pure panic. You're forced to sprint down a narrow hallway with no way to fight back, surrounded by flashing orange lights and alarms going off non-stop. Slashes start bursting out of vents from all directions, and the only escape is praying you don't mess up the route. Sherry section, Resident Evil 2.
Sherry all right?
For now.
I swear, you bastard, if you hurt her.
When Resident Evil 2 got its remake in 2019, it wasn't just a visual upgrade. It completely reworked the experience from the ground up, becoming easily my favorite remake on this list. Using the RE engine, Capcom gave Raccoon City a much more realistic and grim look, with lighting and detail that make every hallway feel alive in the worst way. The shift to an over-the-shoulder camera and tighter controls made combat feel more useful and more substantial, but one section flips the whole game on its head, the Sherry Birkin segment. Suddenly you're defenseless, sneaking through the orphanage with no way to fight back. Being hunted by Chief Irons turns it into pure survival horror. He's worse than Mr. X, trading action for tension as you hide, setting up a moment that wasn't matched until you return to the orphanage 5 years later in Resident Evil Requiem.
You need to learn to listen.
Leave me alone! Just please!
Time to teach some manners.
Showdown with Eddie, Silent Hill 2.
Couldn't leave well enough alone, huh? You just had to follow me all the way out here. How many times do I have to kill you?
Eddie's breakdown in Silent Hill 2 was always uncomfortable, but the remake pushes it even further. What starts as a guy who seems more sad than threatening slowly twists into something much darker, and the shift feels way more real this time. Blooper Team really leans into the facial detail and body language, so by the time you reach the meat locker, Eddie doesn't even feel like the same person anymore. He's laughing to himself, he's twitchy, he's completely gone. Then the fight kicks off and it's chaos. It's not scary in a traditional monster way, but it hits harder because it feels human. Except when he sprints at you through the fog, that just feels pure horror.
I'm coming for you.
Garrador encounter Resident Evil 4. One of the standout moments in RE4 comes with Leon as he's exploring with Ashley and suddenly crashes through some rotten floorboards. That alone is enough to catch you off guard, but the real panic kicks in when he stands up and comes face to face with a Garrador in the dark. It's right there, chained up, massive and way too close for comfort. The twist is that it's blind but reacts to sound, which makes every movement risky, especially with chains hanging everywhere that you can accidentally hit. It balances fear with genuinely gripping gameplay, which is horror at its best, or its worst. Meeting Mr. X, Resident Evil 2. Even if you'd played the original RE2, nothing really prepares you for how Mr. X shows up in the remake. He's no longer just a tough enemy, he's a constant problem. The moment he arrives in RPD, the whole game changes. His heavy footsteps echo through the building, and that low, dread-filled music kicks in, instantly putting you on edge. You can try sneaking around him, and sometimes it works. For a bit. But he always finds his way back to you. That's what makes it so stressful. He's just with you forever. Like fedora herpes. Toluca Prison, Silent Hill 2. A lot of people were worried about the Silent Hill 2 remake going in, especially with Bloober Team behind it, but it ended up being way closer to the original than anyone expected. Instead of changing everything, they kept the small details that made the story so rewarding, and surprisingly barely cut any content. Where things do change is in areas like Toluca Prison, which has been expanded and reworked quite a bit and for the better. The layout is bigger with new sections added in, and it's much darker overall thanks to the over-the-shoulder view limiting what you can see. Lighting plays a big role in this section, feeling scarier than any Silent Hill entry ever has. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of our latest videos.